It was a cool and lonely, breezy afternoon. How does it feel when you've got no food? You could feel it because it was the mouth of June. How does it feel when you got no food? So I left my gate and went out for a walk. How does it feel when you got no food? As I passed the dreadlocks camp, I heard them say, how does it feel when you got no food? Past the Dutch Sheep on the left-hand side. I say, past the... That's it. I'm a terrible singer, man.
The whole time I'm trying to figure out what song is this,
That's
man.
what I mean. I'm a terrible singer, man. Like I totally.
You have to be like a little kid, man, kind of speaking up to the mic. That's how the song was done back then.
Oh, I know.
That's a classic, man. That's mid '80s, man.
I love reggae, man. I think last time Tyler and I were on
ska. Nobody ever talks about ska anymore, man. Ska, you don't remember that?
Ska?
Well, it was the whole mix of like punk and reggae.
Oh, okay.
It was like Pasta Dutchie was kind of part of that whole world there.
Yeah.
Ska music, if you look it up, ska music is actually pretty. I mean, it's hardcore ska is hard to listen to, but stuff like that is it made. I guess it would have been back in the 60s and 70s with reggae music in general.
Yeah.
A lot of white people were just like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
It's true. Yeah.
But nowadays, everybody globally listens to it.
Oh,
right?
man, it's awesome. Like my kids love it. They love Bob Marley, and they don't even know who he really is.
So that's good. I don't think anybody's opened the show with Pasta Dutchie, man.
I know. Yeah, I was hoping no one did.
Gimme.
Yeah. I was gonna do some rock, but I'm like, I feel like everyone does that, you know. So switching it up. Yeah.
Eddie, welcome back, man. We're not going to talk masonry today. We're going to talk marketing, different kind of M.
Yeah, different kind of M. Yeah.
Totally different kind of M, right? Yeah. So I was eager to get you back in the studio so we could talk about this stuff. And then you've got Toolbox Marketing, what you're doing.
Yep.
And you're exclusively focusing on the construction industry marketing.
That's it.
Because the construction industry marketing sucks.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it sucks. Like it's definitely improved a lot.
No, when I say sucks, I mean
people can do it better.
It's not that people can do better. The people that are running their entities don't understand. It's like building a house.
Yeah.
So you're hiring your subs, you're hiring everybody to do the best quality job for your client as best as possible. But then you as a business owner, you're like, I'll do my marketing. Yeah. I'll do this. Yeah. I'll do that. I'll take care of that. I'll do Google ads. I'll do paid promotion ads on TikTok and IG. I'll do all this other shit. And that's the part that I say sucks.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you should be doing that unless you actually know what's involved and what you need to do.
Agreed.
But that's going to take you away from running your business.
Yep.
So I don't think you can do both worlds. I think you could run a successful business, build that business, and then get somebody else to market that successful business to get it to a point where what I really want to talk about in this show is translating marketing dollars spent into profitable leads incurred.
Yep.
That's what I want to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people, like I had a conversation earlier this year with a builder, and he's like, as of June, I think it was, he spent $35,000 on Google AdWords, didn't get one single fucking lead.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
35,000, 3,500.
$35,000.
That's a lot.
So he was just pumping.
Yeah.
And obviously the first month comes along and he's like, okay, so there's no traction. The economy is changing. And then he lets another month go and lets another month go. And then he keeps on thinking, well, let me just keep on trying this. And I remember way back in the early days of the show, probably in the double-digit show numbers, we had a guy, Mike Moll. He was on the show, and he was, I think at the time, his business was Social Media House, and he talked a lot about how Google AdWords is like trying to educate a stubborn 6-year-old child on understanding how to do things, right?
Yeah.
So he says you have to be extremely specific,
very specific
with Google AdWords. You can't just be bombarding it with a bunch of words, and the way you lay it out, because it's going to cause and affect what you're going to get regarding traction.
Exactly.
So there's a whole, that's what I'm saying, is that you have to hire, if I want a mason, I'm going to hire a mason. I'm not going to hire a plumber to do the masonry and vice versa. So if I want to do marketing, I want to hire a marketing person that understands this shit. Yeah. And that's where you come in.
Correct. I mean, I think that's why agencies exist, right? Like now, I also understand why a business owner and like a contractor would start off by doing it themselves if they're initially starting off and they don't have any capital to do, because it's not cheap. Like hiring someone like myself isn't cheap, right? Especially if they're skilled, right? Like if they know what they're doing, it's going to cost you some money. But
cheap is a relative term. Because if the ROI is there.
Correct, yeah. And I try to do my best by educating people in that sense, right? And this is kind of where sales comes in my department, is just educating people like, listen, if you spend this much, you get this much, I try not to give an exact figure because at the end of the day, there's so many variations, right? A lot has to play with the business too. Did you burn bridges with people, right? I try not to look at that too much, but to give you or the audience value right off the bat, since you talked about Google ads, I would be curious to ask that gentleman how he ran his Google ads and what was he running it to? Because a lot of contractors, they run their Google ads directly to their home page. And in my opinion, that's a big, I don't want to say big no-no.
It's not effective.
It's not effective. You hit it on the nail there by saying you have to be very specific. So what I would do if I was a contractor is hire someone to create a landing page, one page. So a landing page is just a one-page website where you have specific keywords that you utilize in the title and small description with VCL, which is just a video sales. Like it could be just you explaining why you're the best tile person in the area, showcasing maybe some clips of your work, and it shouldn't be any more than like 90 seconds to 2 minutes, for instance. And then that's the beginning of your funnel, and then you trickle down to the rest. I won't give away all my secrets.
No, you're not going to give up everything, because obviously we want people to hire you or communicate with you and start the process.
I wanted to come here to provide as much value as I can, because I'm on a mission to really inject marketing, digital marketing to be exact, because traditional marketing I don't mess around with, because I don't.
Traditional marketing, in my opinion, is dying a slow death.
Yeah, across the board.
Oh no, on everything, right? Yeah. You can, and it's no different than, like, we're getting well into it, and I want to dive into this where it's like, I don't want you to give up a bunch of secrets. I want our listeners to understand why you want to try these things, and I definitely want to get into the mindset. First of all, this is not a Oliver Jewelers kind of hit the nail right then and there. Yeah. I'm going to say something and you're going to get a lead, magically just show up. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. My years of social media marketing and trying to get my messaging out there has always been based on brand awareness. Yeah. So if you want to educate yourself about brand awareness, I personally would tell people, go back to the 70s and 80s and pay attention to marketing of big, huge campaigns that never sold a product when they were selling the message, but they were reinforcing the brand. Yep. So it's a longevity thing. So and I go right back to the holy grail of ads, which would be the Mac launch at the Super Bowl, when it only aired one time. And it was a 2.5 minute commercial that was directed by Ridley Scott. And it was basically an Olympian woman that was running around with a sledgehammer through a 1984 inspired world. And she just throws his hammer towards this screen that has the dictator on it. And that was it. And it was just talking about how 1984 is not going to be like 1984. And everybody remember that ad. And they got to also remember that ad was only seen one time. But that established Apple. Exactly. That's what started the Apple brand. And that's basically 40 years ago. And that's what I think that contractors need to understand about their brand. Are you guys in this for the long haul or for the short haul? You want to lie, cheat, and steal and just do taillight warranties and just try to get a quick buck and go in there. I can do that for half the price. I can do that, all that. Then that's not what we're talking about here. If you want to establish a solid core brand and identify it to your principles, then that's what we're talking about here, right?
And don't get me wrong, you can create some instant ROI, and I'll break it up like this. If you look at Google ads, or I'd even classify YouTube ads, because Google owns YouTube.
Every platform's now doing ads, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, everywhere, TikTok, LinkedIn. So if you look at Google ads and YouTube ads, that can provide some instant gratification. Like if it's done properly, like I would start like that. What I said, create a landing page and run ads to that. But you also have to understand Google is a beast on its own. Like you really have to be specific with your keywords and understand everything about Google before you jump in. But it can provide instant gratification. Whereas you look at social media, whether that's paid advertising or just social media marketing, that's a long-term game.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes down to what I said initially. Like you really have to focus on, or think of it this way. If your brand is put in front of people over and over and over and over again, like Coca-Cola, for instance, you're going to get business.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you hit it on the nail as well with the Mac campaign or Apple campaign. And you can track, like you asked me before, you can track social media ROI through, you know, for instance, landing pages. You have a landing page on your Instagram, a different landing page on your LinkedIn, a different landing page on Facebook, and whatever goes through those landing pages, you can track.
Yeah.
And you can even see where people are clicking. Are people clicking on my call now button? Are people clicking on my video? Are they going through the whole sales process? How many people am I losing? Like, there's so many different KPIs you should look at within just social media, right?
And this is all part of your world where you're educating the client that this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's not about, I think a lot of contractors that are running a successful business are trying to get that quick sale right away, especially when we start getting into desperate times, which is what we are in right now, where they're like, there's no leads coming in, so I need to do some advertising. But you can't just throw a bunch of darts at the dartboard and expect that one of them is going to hit the bullseye, and then you're going to get work from it. And then the other argument I have is that you can have 1 million views on something, but if it's not focused energy, then you'll lose the opportunity of a sale as a result of it. But you got bragging rights at the bar when you're talking to your friends going, one of my clips went viral and I'm doing really fucking well. I don't give a shit about that. I really don't. I rather have a lead from something that got 1,000 views, and then instead of no leads from something that got 1 million views.
It needs to transfer into business.
100%, right? Yeah. We're getting way ahead. So
no, that's okay.
Eddie's back here. So Toolbox Marketing, you can find him at ToolboxMarketing.ca. His email is info@ToolboxMarketing.ca, and on IG as well, it's under Toolbox Marketing Agency. His phone number is 226-218-2135. Is that right? Correct. That's right. Quick shout out to KSA Construction. I'm wearing his tee today. I still got the tees that you guys gave me with the fucking photograph on. It was hilarious. I'll be wearing that one on a future show as well. So how do you want to, because, okay, this is how I want to look at things. I want to figure out how all the stuff that we're going to talk about is applicable whether you got a big business or a very tiny business, or you're just getting started. Or if you're just an individual trade that, like most trades that we know, they do some side jobs. So you're working for a corporation, but you want to start doing some side jobs, but you need to promote yourself. Now, today's word of mouth, in my opinion, is a digital word of mouth. Everybody is online that's trying to get some sort of person to do some work.
Correct.
Whether they meet you in a personal environment at an event, could be soccer, it could be kids, or you're connected, whatever. At some point, they're going to meet you. You can give them a business card, but they're going to go online and verify you, right? They're going to know, okay, are you legit? Do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have social? Do you have anything? And then if it reaffirms what they've seen when they met you, then they'll give you a chance. You'll submit and you'll get a job, and then you go from there. But it's still a digital word of mouth world. So how do we handle the small fishes, the big fishes, and everything, right?
For sure. So, I mean, I'll give you my experience on like my personal experience. So I had, when I was doing side jobs, so I'm talking about small business here, I did exactly what I said. I created a little landing page and I ran Google ads towards it. I think I ran like $1,500 at that time, which transferred over 10
per
grand
month.
So I only ran it for a couple months because I was working full time, and it was just like summer season, right? And that transferred over 10 grand of business, right? So sorry, 1,500 split up between 2 months, transferred over to 10 grand of business, technically because I didn't do all the jobs in that one specific month, right? So I want to make sure I answer this question properly. So you kind of want to know why a small company would need marketing and a big company need marketing, right?
Yeah, but they both need marketing.
For sure.
Right? But the problem is that you'll get a lot of agencies that'll come along and they'll see a big company and they go, well, here's our price tag. And then you get a small company and then here's our price tag. And then it's like construction, no different. Whenever we give our quotes to the clients, they just race right to the number. They just look at the number and they go, okay, well, hire you based on this number. But they're ignoring all the effort that's ahead of that number and the purpose behind that number. Right? So I think it's effective towards either a small company or a big company. You just have to also be on the same page on what's the objective. So I don't think the majority of construction has a big enough ego that all they care about is viral. All they care about is that my content is getting millions of views. I think they really want to know that their content is transferring into an ROI.
Yeah, I think that's the big, like, because I've been in a few different industries, and it's always, with construction, it's always been ROI. They've never looked at it as far as like a longevity, like long term, like, you know, branding, right? Because that's, branding is a long term game, right? It's you're not going to get an instant ROI. So I'll tell you this: I think the people that are winning right now in this slow period are the ones that did spend the money and spent the time on making themselves presentable online.
Yep.
That's the big game changer. Is if you have a website that is, you know, a beautiful website that showcases all your work, and to add onto that, even testimonials of your past builders that you've worked with, or past homeowners that you've done work for. If you have all these things in a great social media set up now, you're winning, because now homeowners, like, look at it this way: about, I think it was like 96% of people will go online to shop for a product before they go in store and buy it. It's no different from contractors, right?
You know what I do is I actually go to different people's websites, search the same product, and price compare before I physically enter a vehicle and drive to that location.
So what determines your decision there?
It depends on the product, but the majority, I would say 9 times out of 10, is the cost of the product.
Okay.
Right? And then also you got to factor in if there's driving distance attached to this. So if we're talking about just a mainstream product, like right now, I'll just go really simple. I'll go, listen, okay, what's the price on Amazon? What's the price at Walmart?
Yeah.
And then I'll just look at it. And it fluctuates every single time, right? So it depends. Like, you know the game with Amazon when you're purchasing something, if there's buying power attached to that product. And I saw this like years ago. It was really funny. I was joking about tool influencers always talking about tools and just talking about different tools and what's the best tool and all this other crap, right? Then I was in the market for better goggles, safety goggles. Yeah. And I always had a problem with safety goggles because whether they wouldn't fit correctly, or they would fog up, or they would scratch. Yeah. So then I bought a bunch of different safety goggles, and then I tried them all out. I was on the job site working, did exactly the same thing. Quickly discover if you take the tail end of your shirt and wipe your safety goggles away, majority of them would scratch. Yeah. It's just you had a little bit of debris on there. That's it. So I was just unconsciously doing my own market research on which ones. I finally found a pair from Boley. Right, I think that's how it's pronounced, right? Boley or whatever, the extreme sports company, right?
Yeah, okay.
They have a line of safety goggles, right? So I finally found theirs, wore them. They wouldn't fog, they wouldn't scratch, they fit perfectly. And then I went online, saw them on Amazon, bought them for like something like less than $10, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, I shared my findings with everybody. And I just told, this is a pair. I went through all of these other pairs here. I didn't give a shit about all the DeWalt or Milwaukee or all the branded ones that were basically just hitching their cart to a certain brand that was already making goggles. And I said, these are the ones that I liked. All of a sudden, there was a spike of people that were following me, buying on Amazon. I went back a few weeks later to go buy it, and that same pair was double the price now.
Yeah.
So I saw the buying power of Amazon and what they do, right? So you've seen it, you know this, right?
Absolutely.
So my decision is like the cost of it, and then how far of a drive to get to it. But when I'm buying something, it's a digital platform first. Yeah. So it's the same thing for construction. Clients are going to look at numbers, and then they're going to go online to see your presence.
Correct. And I was going to say, I should have probably been more specific. I should have meant service-based, like product, right? Because so we're a consumer economy, right? So when we look at products, for us, it's just price at this point, because a lot of products are saturated, right? So it doesn't matter if people have a big social media presence or not. I mean, it does, but a lot of the time, guys like us will just look at price. But typically, when you look at contractors, let's say a builder, that needs to hire a masonry company. They're, especially right now, because I'm really embedded in that industry specifically because of my background. So I see a lot, right? And the guys that are winning are typically, you got price comparison right now because that's what's going on with the market, but they're only going to hire a lower price hack job, I guess is what I'd like to say, one time, right? Then they're going to look for the guys that are reputable and that can produce the type of work that they need, because at the end of the day, if you're building a custom home, you need the right person for the job. So when you go online and you look at a masonry company that has a website has testimonials of past work, has video footage, photography of all their work, they're going to give them a chance.
Yeah.
And that's all a masonry company essentially needs, is that bit of a chance.
Yep.
Then it comes down to the owner and you have to sell, right?
Yeah.
But having an online presence is one of the biggest game changers, I think. And again, this all kind of ties in with what my mission is to really inject digital marketing into this industry, to show them like it is extremely beneficial, right? And I see it as a long-term game, but you can have some immediate success if you do it right.
See, our industry is a service, like you said, it totally is. It's a service-based industry. It confuses consumers to decide on who to really go because they still have the mindset of a product consuming industry, right? So the problem I have is that I tell contractors, stop paying attention to the normal way that social media is presented for every other product out there. Right, because it's not applicable to us.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So I never jumped on, and nor would I ever jump on the ocean spray. Remember that whole viral hit where it was Fleetwood Mac. So the one guy,
yeah.
So all of a sudden, you know, like that worked for Ocean Spray, and they sold out of all that cranberry, and they drank it, and it was great. It was wonderful, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you saw some guys try to jump on in construction. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then recently, it's the Hawk Tui fucking stupid, right? I never jumped on that shit, and you had a bunch of guys trying to do that. Whether they were trying to get traction or they're trying to get leads from it, it was never going to work.
Yeah.
You were just jumping on a bandwagon that had nothing to do with the construction industry. So I don't pay attention to what's going viral when it comes to that part of the world. Pay attention to what works here. You still have to speak to your consumer, which is speak to them on a service-based level. So you have to differentiate yourself from other people that are in the same segment, which is your competition at that point. So you have to, it goes back to brand awareness. You have to still continue building your brand. And the best thing that contractors can do is when the economy is shitty, like how it is right now, is you need to, like you said, keep on getting your message out there, but without the expectations that you're going to get a sale today, tomorrow, next week, this month. You have to understand that that message going out today is going to get you something in a few months or next year. That's how you have to look at it, right? It's hard to look at it that way, but that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah, it sucks because, you know, most people want to see an ROI right away, right? And I do agree with you. And I'll give you some reasoning behind those. I call them meme posts, right? They do go viral, right? And it does help with engagement, which engagement can transfer to business because of how the algorithm works, right? If you have a meme post that did millions of views, your future posts will be featured on, you know, if you look at Instagram, like the search feed, right? You'll start to pop up there more often. So those posts that do transfer into business almost immediately will now be seen by more people. So should you flood your socials with meme posts? Definitely not. Once a week, maybe, if you're, depending again, your industry and how aggressive you want to be with it. But once a week, definitely do a meme post. And I know a lot of people will be against like staying on trend with, like, for instance, the Hawk Tool girl and whatnot. I see value in that just because if you hop on trend, that's, again, tons of views. Your future posts could be seen on those search bars and then can transfer into business, right? So I think it's all relevant, but it's a small percentage that you need to use those.
It's how you follow up with it, right?
Great. That's exactly what I would say.
You can do that and all of a sudden get your engagement up and get your numbers up and get the ego boost and the dopamine hit and all this other shit. But you should be on the back end thinking, how do I translate this
for sure
to a sale?
Yeah, the follow-up.
How do I monopolize this so then I can basically turn a sale out of this, right?
Yep. Because I look at it like, so I focus a lot on contractors, and they're looking at either homeowners or you know, GCs or builders as their clientele or their target audience. They're still on their cell phones looking at. Everyone is consumed by social media. I don't care if you're a top business owner or not. Like, you're going on social media at some point throughout the day, and you're consuming those stupid meme posts, right? So it'll still that could transfer immediately into a business, but I wouldn't focus on that. I would focus more so on, like you said, the follow-up, the layup of what would happen afterwards, right? Because now, you know, that one post could have gotten you, like for one of my biggest clients, Team C Masonry, they had just to give you a concrete example, a post that hit, I think it was like 2.5 million, and that got them 500 follows, like probably a lot more now, but 500 follows just from that one post. So are they all relevant? Maybe not, but even if you transferred one of those into business,
get like 1% of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even just one, not even 1%, just one, that's a sale right there.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the way I look at it when it comes to those stupid meme posts. Cause I do agree they are ridiculous and they're getting even more and more ridiculous, but it's, you got to stay on trend. Just like people thought the internet wasn't going to be a thing or social media wasn't going to be a thing. You know, people had to hop on that trend to realize, okay, wow, this is a big thing.
There's a constant argument. I'm still at the tail end of getting rid of this stupid cough from going to Turkey. But there's a constant argument where you'll get certain builders in construction talking about, I want nothing to do with construction, with social media. I want nothing to do with it. I don't have the time for it. I don't care about it. I do great quality work and it's all word of mouth for me, right?
Cool. I love
and
this
I'm like,
one.
which is great. And they frown upon the other part of the industry, which I probably would think that is like 95% of the construction industry is on digital platforms trying to get their messaging out there, versus you get this 5% maybe want nothing to do with it, but they're still getting enough work. But I think that at one point they will dry up and need to use it and be a part of it, right? So they just have to figure out how to do it. And there's different ways of doing it. Everyone's always trying to get in front of the cart. That's the problem here, is that what I see now, the economy turned and I saw dozens and dozens and dozens of tradespeople with pages just buy ads from Instagram.
Yeah, I've
That's it. You probably saw the rash, right? And I get it. Instagram's pricing model to get it out there, it's like, so they'll sacrifice their coffees for the week and then they get this ad out there. And then, but are you paying attention to what it's really doing? Exactly. Is it going anywhere? Is it following up with it? Are you getting leads? And I think that the majority of them are going the way of that other builder that spent so much money on AdWords, didn't get any return from it. Did he end it incorrectly, or did he end it too soon, or did he not? Like you said, we don't know for sure. What were the keywords? How did we dive in? And in construction, I think what we're good at is, if it's not working really well the first month, then you should need to figure out what to do in the second month. Correct. And then I think what's really important in social media and digital, you can confirm this or deny, you always have to be shifting. You can't be rigid and just go, this is what we're going to fucking do. Hands down. That's the old way of marketing things. That this is how it's going to be done. And this is how it's worked in the past. When we did a print campaign, we did a radio campaign, we did a TV campaign. There's rules when it comes to that shit. But when it comes to social media, there's no rules. You have to just keep on going with the fucking tide. You have to figure out what is working, what's not working, and pivot, right?
I think that there is more rules with social media because you can track more. So because you can track more, you have to be very specific, right? Like the reason why I think everyone should do social media is because of, or not social media, digital marketing versus traditional marketing, is because it's highly targeted. Like on Facebook, back then, actually, let me bring this up. This is interesting. Back then, you could target literally anything from, if you were a single mother, how much income you've made, did you just get a new job, like so on and so on. On Facebook.
How far back?
But you can do, this was like, so Facebook had a big lawsuit or whatever, like Mark Zuckerberg.
Because of the data.
It was when Trump went, because the whole thing was Donald Trump utilized Facebook ads to target specific people to get all of his votes. That was a big thing. And then they penalized Facebook for it. That wasn't the case at all. At the end of the day, people are willingly giving out this information, right? Is it crooked? I don't know. I mean, like, it is weird that our phones kind of
people need to understand that all forms of digital social media platforms are data collection entities. Tesla is a data collection entity. They're not a car manufacturer. So we're in a world today that it's all about data. That's all it is. So that's why I agree with you that it is all targeted shit.
Extremely
where
targeted.
it's like, you know exactly. And like right recently I read Apple's new generation of AirPods are going to have biometrics in it now. And so like I stopped using, I've got 3 AirPods. Anybody wants them? I got 3 fucking sets. You guys can have it.
Yeah.
I'm back to wired now.
Yeah.
I'm using wired. I'm going to continuously just use wired, not the next gen. And I'm sure that they're probably going to do a wired version that has the same health biometrics bullshit in there. Yeah. But they're doing it because they want to know where your eyes are going. They want to know what your heart rate is. They want to know what's going on when you're going through your life and all this other shit. And I'm like, that's just data collection. Apple's a data collection company. That's how they're making their money. Then they can target a bunch of shit. So it's inception in reality now is what it is. Yeah. They're basically convincing you to buy certain products without you realizing that you want to buy that product.
Yeah. So it's scary. And this is like a very touchy subject because I mean, I have kids. I don't know if you follow my personal accounts or not, but I don't post about my kids at all.
I never understood any tradespeople that do.
Yeah. Specifically because of this reason. Like, no, even in my personal account, like I don't post about them because I'm like, it's scary that they're listening. Yeah. But on the flip side, being in my chair and like utilizing these tools, I also see the benefit of it, right? Like I look at it this way, you know, let's say you are in the time of shopping for, I don't know, a tool. I'll put it in this perspective, a tool to solve problem A, but you don't know that tool exists. Then you see an ad for it. Now you have that tool. So I see it can be beneficial, but it is scary at the same time.
Well, we see that all the time. Like, I mean, I've joked with it. I've had meetings with friends and we're just all joking and we're clearly saying keywords. And all of a sudden, later on, all of us are getting bombarded with some ads in our feed from that product. So we just like, we know that shit is always listening. I've had a cyber guy on the show before. I've had conversations with cyber guys before on the show. And also at meetings and shit like that. And it's like, even if you turn it off, it's still collecting data. Yeah. Right? You literally have to destroy that thing and then it's going to stop collecting data. Yeah. But if as a business owner, if you understand that that's what it's doing, then use it.
That's what I mean. So
use it for that purpose.
This is because of the industry, I find myself educating a lot. And I'm okay with that. I decided to niche down because, again, I was part of a bunch of different industries doing marketing for a bunch of different companies. And I niched down because I seen a problem that this industry had. And I knew I had to spend a lot of time educating the industry. I'm okay with that because I know that eventually people will hop on board a lot. Like there's a lot of young contractors out there and they see the value. Some maybe not so much, but there's a lot of them that do. It's getting the old timers that have been around for a while and have had their businesses for a while to hop on board. But like you said, it's either you hop on the train or you get left behind. So you're going to almost be forced because of how fast it's going to inject into this industry. Like look at AI. If to talk a little bit about AI is entering a bunch of different industries, and construction is going to be one of them too. I think I've seen even AI as far as the goggles. Yeah, I've seen people like with estimations and whatnot. Like there's a lot of AI for that as well. So it's going to enter in the industry. It's just a matter of if you're going to hop on.
It's whoever's going to embrace it, right? Like you have to pay attention to. That's why I was saying you got to use it a certain way.
Correct.
I don't think you need to go down the rabbit hole of being consumed by just mainstream social media and all kinds of shit that's going on out there. If you can ignore that side of the business, it's like, I guess treat it as if you're a race car driver and they're asking you to test a new car. Mm-hmm. You're not going to drive that car for the next year. You're going to get on the track and you're going to specifically do things with that car to take it to the extremes of testing it. Then you'll understand exactly what the limitations of that car are. Yeah. Like, that's how I look at it. So it's the same way. Look at social media. What do I want to do with social media? What do I want to achieve? And then look at the platforms and go, these are the platforms I want to use. This is the ideas that I want to get out there. And these are the objectives that I want to try to reach. Will that work on IG, TikTok, Facebook, whatever? That's when you're speaking with someone like you and going, listen, based on your business, based on your brand, what you're trying to create, this is where we should focus our efforts. A, B, C, and then this is what we should do for the first week, first month, first year, and then start building out this whole plan and go with it at that point, and then start selling and implementing this stuff and trying to figure out what is working, what is not working. But if the ultimate goal is to get leads from it, then stay on course.
And that's kind of, I actually start with So if we kind of go back to small, what should a small business owner do versus what a big business owner should do, right? Considering that the big business owner already has a website, has a social presence, and maybe has run ads in the past or something, whereas a small business owner hasn't done anything, maybe has an Instagram account. I would start them off with a website.
Landing page
website and then a landing page as well, because you still need a website. That's where you're going to showcase your work. So many people use their Instagram to showcase their work, and then you see them also showing their kids on there and what they ate for dinner and this and that. You need to keep that stuff separate.
So just Eddie, just on the side note of the website, I know there's a whole other fucking world out there regarding websites, and then I also know, because I've gone down this road, WordPress websites suck. Like, there's a bunch of shit that I start speaking to certain people, and all of a sudden they're like, this is a pain in the ass regarding this plugin. There's a pain in the ass with this.
Yeah, that's funny.
You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden you're being sold a certain product.
Yeah.
Then you start using it, and then you start trying to grow your website, and you can't because there's limitations on how you started, right?
Yeah.
So are there certain websites that you would recommend that a small business owner starts with, that's not sold into this whole world of just go this route, get it done. You can get it done for $1,000 or whatever, right? Or like, there's got to be proper websites that can be done
for sure. So I'll say it in and like, let's say you are doing it by yourself and then hiring someone like me. So I'll give you those.
I'll go back to, you shouldn't be doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
I definitely would say don't.
I agree. Because I've had people do it themselves, and then I have to go in after to fix it all up. So I do agree. But if they do want to do it themselves, just again, I want to provide as much value. It would probably be, I would go with something like Wix. Extremely easy. They even have templates you can use. But again, that you pay for what you get. You're going to use a template that probably 100 million other contractors have used, right? So, do you look at your business as a unique business, or are you looking at it as the same as every other contractor? So I always say that. But let's say you did hire someone like myself. You're going to hate me saying this, but I would use WordPress. But I have developers. Like, I use coders. Like, I don't really pay for those plugins. You can
go in and change the WordPress the way it is.
So plugins are just add-ons that you, like, let's say a plugin for a booking portal, right? Well, to make it easier, you could use something like Calendly, right? Add that to your website, just code it in, and then you don't have to pay for a plugin. And then you don't even have to manage it through your website. You can manage it through Calendly, and that can go right on your phone.
But it goes back to, before you decide on what route you want to go regarding a website, you have to determine, what do you want out of this website?
Yeah. Correct.
Right. So if you're like, right now you see it, a lot of tradespeople are starting to sell merch.
Yes.
They seen that there's an auxiliary kind of revenue stream that could be there, because they start building a certain kind of brand, and it starts getting traction on social media, and all of a sudden people reach out and go, listen, can I get a cap of yours? Can I get a hoodie of yours? And now does your website need to sell merch on it? So you need to start figuring that shit out. Are you going to get a website that's going to already walk your potential lead right through the process and give you a quote by the time they leave your website, and then they're going, okay, let me review this quote, I'm going to get back to you. So now you got to filter through all that stuff. Now are you going to have videos that are going to be connected to your social media or to your YouTube channel? Are you going to have social media that's connected to it? Are you going to be like, I don't know, work progress or drawings? You could pull up PDF, like all that shit. So you need to figure out what kind of website do you want and who you're speaking to figure out what plugins or what products. And I only bring up the WordPress thing is because I'm just killing my old WordPress one that I spent quite a bit of money on, and it was constantly plug in this, plug in that, all this other crap. And now I'm being told, get rid of all that shit. Let's start working with this, and let's focus on what do you want to achieve. And that's what I'm focusing on right now, right?
For sure. And so this is the way I look at it is, regardless of what you're looking to achieve, you can still get it done through WordPress. The way I look at WordPress is it's just so I'll break it down like this: WordPress versus Wix. WordPress is extremely customizable. Like, I can do anything on WordPress because I can code everything. And if I can't, which is very rare, I can plug something in quickly. But I get where you're getting at with plugins, but if it's just one versus a million, that's not a big deal. Now, Wix, it's not so customizable. They might not like me saying that because they did just kind of release a few years ago, like, you can customize a little bit, but not as much as WordPress. But it is user friendly. So when it comes to, plugging your social media, uploading photos, uploading videos, you can do that. It's an e-commerce platform too. But then on the flip side, WordPress, you could plug in WooCommerce. I think you have WooCommerce.
Yeah, I had WooCommerce, and it was a headache as well too, right? So
really?
I was.
What did you find a headache? Like,
it wasn't me. It was a headache of the person doing the work telling me that this can't be done because I need to get this plugin to put this, to change this, and all this other shit.
It just comes down to you have.
It's coding and shit, and that's not my wheelhouse, right? So it's just I try to figure out this. I started with the idea. Here's my menu. This is what I need my website to do. These are all the avenues that I need to offer regarding anybody who's coming and visiting my website. Yeah. Now, what's the best option? So you get one person. What I started learning is you'll get web people they're familiar with. I'll give you an example. A garage is cold. The bedroom above the garage is cold. So a garage door guy comes in and tells the client, you need a new garage door. Mm-hmm. So whoever you're speaking to, and that's their profession, they will tell you that's what you need to get done. So if they're so used to working with WordPress and doing it the way they've done it so many times, then they're going to tell you you need to go WordPress.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. But then all of a sudden you start asking them about all these other things that you want to do. Yeah. Well, you can't do that unless you bring in these plugins and all that. And then now you start getting into a dialogue where it's like, then you're not delivering what's going on. So I think you have to be extremely strict on what you want to achieve with your website and figure out whether you're small, big, or whatever the story is.
Yeah, and I do think that partially was a qualification issue, right? Like where they qualified for the job, because I've used everything, like from WordPress, Wix, Shopify, Squarespace. Like I could go on and on. I've used everything, and I would always relate it back to WordPress only because I can customize whatever I need. So if you need something specific, I can customize it on WordPress.
Got it.
You know, I don't develop, like I don't code anything, just to be upfront and honest, but I do design everything. So I have my coders code whatever I design, and then we work together as a team. And we do have clients that use Wix, and we can develop Wix websites, but if someone asks me honestly, I would say WordPress, but only after I learn about what their goals are, like you said, because I need to know, you know, specifically, am I going to be managing the website, or are you going to be managing the website? That's another thing. Yeah, because some people might not be comfortable with WordPress. So that's when I would recommend Wix, right? What's your budget, right? Because upfront, so yes, you have to pay for Wix monthly, but it's cheaper for me to build a website for you on Wix because I don't have to code anything.
Yep. But like you said, you're limited to what
you can
is being offered.
But then on the flip side of WordPress, you don't have to pay for it monthly. You just have to pay for a server and domain, and then you just hire me to build a website.
Configure it. That's it.
And depending on your goals, I could just build a website and leave it. Right? Like, and even if you did want to upload photos and videos of your projects, it's in my opinion, I could easily show that to people. And what we're doing now is creating modules to just give to people. So, you know, hey, here's a module to upload a video, you know, or here's a video to upload a photo in this section of this page, so people understand where to go and how to maneuver.
But I go back to, are you the builder that wants to focus on building your business and the brand?
For sure, yeah.
And then outsource, no different than you hiring all these other sub-trades to build the product that you're delivering to your clients.
Correct.
Same thing on the digital side.
So then going back to like small business versus big business, if you're a small business, I would probably recommend something like Wix, because you're probably not going to have the funds to have me manage that month after month, right?
Yeah.
Because that's another fee on top of your overhead. Whereas if you're a big business, I would recommend going to WordPress and hiring me to manage it for you, so that you're solely working on just your business and that's it, right? And you outsource the rest to someone like myself. So as far as like website goes, I would say those two.
Well, I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of guys that were just milking the social media train. They're like, I'm getting all my leads and potential leads and my engagement and my growth and my brand awareness all on social media, and specifically IG.
Yeah.
IG is what gravitated towards contractors.
For sure.
Before Zuckerberg started putting a hammer down on it.
Yeah.
And then we started seeing, like, listen, in the early days of Instagram, for me, I was getting 500,000 views on a post.
Yeah.
Like insane. It was almost like a daily kind of thing. It was just stupid. And then once they clamped that down, that you quickly realize you're barely trying to get 1,000 views on the same kind of style video. But the problem I was telling people back then was that, and it was, this is what I got out of Gary Vee when I was reading his book and I started paying attention. Why is everybody just focused on IG and construction? Correct. I didn't understand it. Yeah. I started on YouTube, on Twitter, and then IG, and now it's on TikTok and LinkedIn. But what I'm seeing nowadays is, like I mentioned earlier, there's a whole rash of paid promotions going on. People are they're frightening trying to get leads by just buying a bunch of fucking ads.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the exact same thing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's gotten to the point where I used to praise LinkedIn quite a bit years ago. It was a great source to get engagement and interact with people, even though the numbers were far less.
Yeah.
But you started paying attention to the impressions, and then that whole back end that someone likes or comments on your post on LinkedIn, all of their followers pay attention to that and they see it. But now LinkedIn is all about every other second ad that you see or post that you see is an ad. Yeah. And I'm so annoyed by it to the point where I'm spending the time to actually stop. It's irrelevant and delete this ad, right?
Yeah.
I just want to constantly be doing that, but I can't stand it because they keep on feeding it. Yeah. So and in the same respect, LinkedIn's always pushing you to try to go premium. It's not worth. I'm telling everybody, do not fucking go the premium route. It doesn't make any sense. And I go back to use the platform to the best that you can use that's going to benefit you, not them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like right now I'm seeing a rash of people on IG buying ads. I'm seeing a rash of people on LinkedIn buying ads. Are they working or are they just trying shit?
So based off because I use a lot of different platforms to kind of spy, I guess you could say, on people and see how they're running their ads and whatnot. And based off what I see, a lot of people are just boosting posts, which is again, in my opinion, a really big no-no because you have very limited targeting options. And if people don't know what boosted posts are, it's literally you go through Instagram or Facebook's front end there and you can just click a button, boost your post. It even asks you a lot of the time now if you'd like to boost this post. And then you might be able to, I think it was like geotag it, gender tag, and like 2 or 3 other options. Very, very minimal stuff.
You're paying fractions.
Yeah.
But it's not getting you shit.
Exactly, right? And on top of that, they're usually boosting a post that they just posted on their Instagram. Like what I would do, so I'll talk a little bit about like what I would do as far as making sure how to run proper ads, and then I'll talk a little bit about which social platforms should contractors work on, because that's another big thing. Like I feel like everyone goes all in on Instagram, but maybe their business shouldn't be on Instagram, right? So Facebook has a back end called Facebook Ads Manager. That's where I would opt into. And again, it's a beast. Like you have to know what you're doing. That's why people like me exist, to go in and do that. But again, if you want to take a stab at it on your own, Facebook Ads Manager, you have to create a business account to do so. You'd have to have a Facebook page as well, but go on the back end there, and that's where I would run the ads.
And that's connected to IG as well.
That's connected to Instagram too, so you can run Facebook ads or Instagram ads.
They actually ask you that, don't they? Do they ask you to do both?
You can, in the back end, you can choose either option, whether you want to do just Facebook or just Instagram, or you can, this is another thing, you can do just stories. So then we'll talk about ad creatives, right? So you need to test. Like, I feel like a lot of contractors think that there's this one thing that'll just work. This one image is going to work. It's going to get me so many leads. It's like, yeah, it might have worked for the one guy, but it might not work for you. You really have to test. And that's what my team and I do, is we're just constantly testing. That's why I always tell people, like, don't expect an ROI in your first week. Like, we need data. Especially if you're if we had to open up your socials, you got to give us a good 30 days to gather some data to be able to produce results, right? So I would go on the back end of Facebook and run your ads through there. Get highly targeted, or actually start like this. Go general, right? Let's say you're in Southern Ontario, target people in your specific area. Go with like 2 or 3 other targeting options. Maybe male would be a big one. House income, like how much do people make, and leave it at that. Gather that information, see because Facebook has a phenomenal algorithm. Obviously, they're a powerhouse when it comes to advertising. They gather so much data for you. So give it about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and gather that information and start to tweak your ads. where is Facebook, or who is Facebook showing my ads to? Start looking at the persona of people. Oh, they're showing it to more males. Okay, exit females, target more, or create a second ad specifically for males. Okay, great. They're the household, or they're divorced. They're single parents. Okay, great. Let's create an ad specific for that. And then let's say you're at the end of it all, you're a tile guy, and your ideal client is a male that is divorced with a household income of 200 grand, so on and so on and so on. Now you can create an ad creative, so a photo or video. Video is what I prefer. Talking specifically to that audience.
Yep.
So now you can say, hey, are you a tile guy that is making, and again, I'm just going off the top of my head, making 200 grand, but are struggling with getting more business? Boom, 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 right? And then now you have a specific video for a specific audience. Now your marketing dollars aren't being burned.
No.
They're going a lot further.
Yeah.
I know that we just unpacked a lot, but that's ideally what it takes to produce an ROI.
Yeah.
That's why I'd love to meet the person that spent $35,000 on Google Ads and ask him a lot of questions.
Yeah, what was happening?
How long did he do it for, right? Did he just throw $35,000 in 1 month?
No, he did it for 6 months, right? And he had a
6
team
months.
doing it, and they were trying it out, and that's what he got it. That was his ROI. The ROI was that he didn't get any leads out of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of money was spent, which is a big chunk of change, right?
Yeah.
He's a different kind of builder, but he also was trying a bunch of shit, and I think that it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I think, me personally, after a month, I would have been seriously questioning, going, okay, well, this can't continue this way.
Yeah.
We need to figure out something else.
Yeah.
How do we position? I don't know. Maybe the AdWords weren't right.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Google is you have to be, you have keywords, but you also have to get rid of certain keywords that keep popping up on your ads to make sure that.
And they do that on purpose. Like Google does that, right? They'll automatically.
No, like you have to sometimes, like a lot of the time you have to take those keywords. Like let's say you're.
They offer them up, is what I meant by it, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
So they
but
try to
you
make
do-
your life easy, but they don't understand, like how
Yeah.
you said, you got to be specific on the back end.
Yeah. And sometimes like you have like long tail keywords and short tail keywords. Sometimes people use too much of one.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's another reason why they're burning their marketing dollars. Right. So like it's a whole beast to advertise, and you really need to understand what you're doing to make sure your marketing dollars aren't being burnt. But the biggest thing I want to say, because ever since the slowdown has happened, it's insane how many people I see run boosted posts.
It's a waste of money, in my opinion.
I would never do that in a million
I think
years.
people are just panicking. I think it's a frenzy.
For sure.
I think they're just trying to get out of the market something. That's all it is. And I think that this is the best time for you to stop doing what everybody's doing and go and reevaluate your business as a brand.
Yeah.
And then start implementing things that are associated with your business as a brand.
Correct. Yeah.
And then it may take a few months to get those leads that you want, but those leads will be very precise leads.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you will probably get the job.
Just gather the data, right?
Yeah.
And I usually, like I was saying, what I typically do, because the construction industry is so fixated on ROI, as they should be. At the end of the day, if you're not making money, none of this makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But branding is a big part, which takes a long time. But because they're so fixated on ROI, I typically do recommend going to paid ads right away versus hiring me to do your social media and go out and do content and blah, 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 blah. Specifically because if we can produce an ROI for a client, they're like within the first month or two, they're going to want to stick around. And then my goal isn't to bring someone in and then, exit them right after a couple months. Like I don't want short-term clients. I want a long-term client.
You want to grow.
I want to build a relationship, right? And what it takes is showing results right away. So what I typically do is, if you don't have a website, let's create a website. If you don't have a landing page, let's create a landing page. Now let's attach your Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever works specific to your industry or your industry. And we focus on driving leads to that landing page, and then we tweak the sales funnel as we go down. And that's what it comes down to is, and another thing that we're really working on is becoming appointment bookers for contractors. So I want to offer a service and we're slowly testing this right now, but I want to offer a service where I take care of everything from beginning to end, meaning at the end of it all, you'll just get an appointment.
Yeah.
So what I'm noticing is I can run ads for people, but where are those ads going to? Your cell phone? Are you doing a good job closing those leads? I'd rather trust myself closing those leads. So we're working on systems to be able to offer that to people where at the end of it all, I'm just going to pay, you're just going to get a lead and you're going to, or an appointment, and you're going to pay me for the appointment, not a monthly retainer, but an appointment.
I remember my early days in marketing for construction. Like you're kind of rare, right? Because you understand construction, right? And a lot of people in the digital marketing, especially in marketing landscape, they don't know construction.
Yeah.
And in the early days, I always had to speak to people, excuse me, that didn't know construction, and I had to explain to them about construction.
Yeah.
And then obviously I would let them, this is years back, I would let them be the voice, and then I would see what they would write. And I was like, dude,
Makes sense. Yeah.
even on my blindest, deafest day, I would never respond that way because it doesn't speak to the construction industry.
Yeah.
So it's clearly obvious whoever wrote this doesn't understand the construction industry. So I would definitely encourage anybody who's trying to build a marketing plan or a digital platform, test the person you're speaking to,
Correct.
whether they know enough about construction to speak on your behalf. I totally trust you that you can speak on my behalf to talk about construction because you understand construction. But the unfortunate thing is that, and I'm not trying to be sexist here, there's a large group of females that are in marketing.
Very true. Yeah.
Right? And they know how to do that kind of marketing, but they don't know fuck all about construction.
No.
And so it's like, I have a problem with that. You need to understand construction to speak on the behalf of that construction company.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that knowledge, then get the fuck out of the room.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, right? Because your audience will not engage with you if you can't respond correctly to them. And I get their slang, there's different words and all this other shit, but it's the way you respond has to be better than just a generic response about thanks so much, thanks for the support, all this other crap. No, you have to engage with people on their level regarding what's being done here on social.
You have to use their language.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. And I think, that is a big advantage of mine because there isn't many, if any, really.
There aren't that many. So
No.
Like single digits, man.
Yeah.
That's my problem. So then if you're interviewing, trying to get somebody to come on board and be your marketing person, digital marketing person, they better know fucking construction.
Yeah.
And anybody who starts talking to me about, well, this is what we did for Coke and this is what we did with fucking Verizon. This is what we did. I don't give a shit about that. That has nothing to do with that. I want to talk to the people that built those buildings, that people are working in those corporations are performing their duties, right? Those are the people that I'm speaking to. If you don't know how to speak to those people, then I don't want to speak to you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't work.
It's true. I mean, I 100% agree. And I think a lot of agencies try to be too general, right? Like they want to just, oh, you need business, I'm your guy, right? Even before I decided to niche down and solely focus on construction, any of the industries I would market for, it was always something I was really into, whether it was fitness, at the time cannabis was a big one for me. And even like the whole, I did the whole salon and spa thing. Like I understood that because my wife, right?
Yeah.
So I spoke that language. And now being in the construction industry, I wish I did this sooner because it just all made sense. I've been in this industry for 12 years. It mainly masonry. I've been in and out of other things, but it's always, I've always done construction and I've done marketing for about 7 years now, roughly 7 years. A lot of it was just for my personal like e-commerce businesses. But this year I decided to niche down because I knew that I could do what I want to do, which is inject digital marketing into the construction
But the connectivity
industry.
to the tradesperson, doesn't matter if it's just you focused on masonry, the connectivity to the tradesperson is paramount there, right?
Well, being on site and like TMC Masonry, Tyler Cabral, big shout out to him.
Of course, yeah.
Love the guy. He because he's a really good friend of mine, I'm able to really see the ins and outs of the entire industry, right, of construction. So I got to learn a lot through him as well, which has helped me. The way it transferred to my business is I can speak now several different languages within the construction industry. Yeah.
And the other thing that I would also say too, which you don't do, which is great, in the early days, I can only assume right now there's still marketing agencies that are still doing this shit. It's term commitments.
Yes.
And I'm like, I remember the very first one that I ever hired to jump on board. They were so adamant about getting me to sign this fucking term commitment. But after the first month, there was like car crash after car crash after car crash. And I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, guys. I'm done. No, you have a term commitment for 6 months. Go fuck yourself. Go ahead and try to do something with that. But you guys are not delivering what we discussed, and you're just treating me like another fucking person that's just buying some product from you. I don't care about that shit. So I was like, don't pay attention to any term commitments. Go on a month by month, because if they don't deliver, then they're not delivering.
Correct.
Simple as that. And
that's the big reason why I decided not to do. I've never done contracts, because I don't. The way I look at it is this way, and it comes down to building my goal of building a relationship with people. If I can, my goal is always going to be to produce you results, whatever that case is. Could be a specific ROI or just brand awareness, whatever your goal is. My goal is to produce you results. If I can do that, if I can deliver on that, I don't need a contract. You're just going to come back month after month after month. And that's how a relationship should be. I think it is a bit of an old school type of way of thinking, but I don't see.
Well, the alternative, what the majority of the industry is doing, is they get commitment to money coming in on a monthly basis.
Exactly. And that's cool and all, but I don't care about
I don't care about that shit. I don't care about your bottom line. I care about my bottom line. So if your product or your services that you're offering are not helping me after the first month, then we're going to have a serious sit down. And it's the same. I treat it the exact same way without anybody else that I hire for doing something for me.
Correct.
It's like, you have to deliver what you said that you're going to deliver. If you're not delivering, then we're going to have a conversation. And then if you don't deliver again, then we're going to have basically a separation at that point.
Exactly.
The last thing that I want to tell everybody to now is, because I'm starting to see this myself, since technology has ramped up so quickly now, I think everybody has a drone now.
Yeah.
Everybody except for me has a drone. Like, that's everybody funny. Has a fucking drone. So everybody's shooting construction content now. Everybody's going out there and they're just shooting all kinds of construction content. What I have a problem is that you're getting a lot of people that are just attacking the construction industry as another avenue for them to make money. But they're not seeing the storytelling aspect of it.
Correct.
When you create a post, I don't care. I'll argue with anybody. I always said this from day one, 10 years ago. A post is a story, beginning, middle, and end. And if you just want to shoot cool footage, then it's a fucking music video. And I'm not interested in a music video. I'm interested in a story. The story is attached to the brand. The brand has an identity. So if you can't tell a story with your drone footage or with an interview or with some sort of insert on the site, then you're not creating the content that is going to engage for me, for my audience, for my potential leads.
Correct. I love that you brought that up, because a big thing that a big selling factor that I use for people, contractors that need some education, is utilizing social media as a way to promote your company culture. So we've talked a lot about like bringing business in, but how about bringing employees in?
Yeah.
Because that's another big issue.
Attracting employee force, for sure.
We have, there's a big issue with young bloods coming into the industry, right? Into construction. Well, why not capitalize on that and utilize social media to showcase why people should go to your company? Like, if you look at someone like Tyler, that when we started marketing for him, he only had 5 or 6 employees, and that grew to well over 30 employees. And if you talk to a lot of them, they say it's because of social media. They've grown because of social media. So when you showcase, why someone should come work for you through storytelling, specifically video, you can land employees as well as business, not just business. And I think people forget about that or don't even look at that. And that's why, to touch on what you said, storytelling is extremely important. And we focus heavily on that. First off, everyone should focus on video. Forget about like photos and posts and stuff. yes, trickle that in, but
photos are interesting if you do it a certain way.
Yeah.
And I'm very envious sometimes when I'll see framers and they, for lack of a better word, possibly get lucky. Like Mother Nature is always the best lighter in the world, right? So if you're on a job site and you somehow photographed yourself or a tradesperson in the right light, right background, right scenario, whatever, and you captured a photo, that photo will generate some engagement with you to the point where it was pretty stunning. But that's far and few, right? But I agree with you. 100% video is always going to capture more eyes than photos.
And it's easier for someone to tell a story through video than a photo. Because like you said, to tell a story in a photo, you need those specific details to be able to do that, right? Whereas video, you know, let's say 90-second video, you can tell a whole story in that, and you could really intrigue people to the point where they're like, I need to come work for these guys. There's so many. I think you even sent us someone that his name was Joseph.
Yeah, he reached out to me.
Yeah. So I found out later, because he did come work with us for a bit.
Yeah.
And I found out later he was following us on social media for a while, loved this stuff, and he's like, yeah, I got to come work with these guys.
Yeah, no, right? He was a good guy. He actually reached out to me, and then we started talking, and then it was funny. We were talking, and then I was like, what island you from, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, that's weird that you're sensing. And I go, dude, man, like I grew up with all kinds of island boys, right? Yeah. So I can sense a bunch of shit. So then we started talking about the Caribbean, and all of a sudden, and then correct me if I'm wrong, he's Trinidadian.
Correct.
Yeah, he's a Trini, right? Yeah. So I was like, listen, I got a good Chinese Trini friend of mine, right? So and he goes, well, you're probably one of the few that heard that the accent in my voice, right? And I was like, no, totally fine. And I said, listen, my first call is I give Tyler and Eddie a call, reach out to them, and that's how I got started. And then I think it was a few weeks later, because I think he was on the fence or something like that. And then all of a sudden he reached out to you guys, and then he got back to me. He goes, oh, by the way, man, I just wanted to let you know that I'm starting next week.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like going, oh, that's fucking amazing, right? So that's the power of, that's how it gets. So I agree with you that
social media,
people will pay attention to the content, but I mean, it has a lot to do with your storytelling, my storytelling, where people start going, I'm engaged with these people. I see what they're doing. And it's really obvious to see the social media whores out there because it's all about them. And it's very far and few that I put myself out there, whether it's a clip from the show or something like that. For the most part, I'm putting the industry out there. I want to feature the industry more than I want to feature myself. I'll share my opinions on this show, and that's it. That's the extent of it. But when it comes to social media, I've never been a whore to that point. But you'll get a lot of people that just want to be that, play that ego card. And I'm like,
that's what I was going to say. A lot of people in the construction industry have egos, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it is what it is, right? So you do see that a lot, but I like what you said, because it's better to focus on what's important, which is the industry versus just yourself, right?
You'll get more engagement out of that way.
I think it is, that type of content is more engaging, right?
I never understood how, and I've been in these fucking meetings before, right, with HGTV.
Okay.
So they always focused on the star.
Yeah.
It was never about the collaborative. It was never about, and I remember I was doing a pitch session with them, and I was like, I want to do a show where, and I showed them a picture of a group of tradespeople, and I blurred out the star, and I focused everybody behind them.
That's cool.
And I said, the show is about everybody behind them. It's all about the tradespeople. Yeah. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. That's not what we're interested in. We want to focus on just the star.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm telling you right now, and then that's what my wheelhouse, that's where it goes, where it's like, there is so much more engagement and character and personalities coming out of that group of people behind the fucking star than there is as the star. Because at some point, the star sells out. I don't give a shit what you say. They sell out just to make the money, and then they have no construction value. And then you still have this group of people that have so much construction value that I respect them a lot more. And then I'm trying to explain to these people who don't know how to swing a hammer that that's where the industry is going, and you need to focus on that. So it goes back to the social media as well. And then I've had arguments or discussions with people in social media saying, how do I tell a story in 60 seconds? And I always tell them, listen, man, I'm an 80s fucking kid. Go back to the 80s and go on YouTube and start typing in Levi's commercial, Michael Bay directed, and do the Life commercial. I think it was called Life. And in 60 seconds, a guy and a girl a guy walks into an elevator, smoking hot chicken there. He looks at her, she looks at him, and in 60 seconds, their entire life flashes before them. And they see themselves getting together, hitting it off, getting married, having a kid, raising a family, and then it comes back to the elevator, and all of a sudden they look at each other and nah. And then he walks out of the elevator and it's done. And I'm like, that's a lifetime that was shared in 60 seconds. So don't tell me that in construction sites, you can't tell a story that has a beginning, middle, and end on a construction site. Every single trade.
Yeah, you can tell that. It's and in my opinion, especially for, like, let's say you want to tell the story of what the type of quality of work you do, right? Like I'll give you an example of, we did a concrete company, Shepco Contracting, shout out to them too, out in Cambridge. We were there for 3 days and we captured the entire thing from start to finish. That video was only like 90 seconds, but I was there for 3 days. I have hours and hours of footage, but I was able to tell their story. I was able to show the intricate work they do, the care that they put into their work, and then the finished product.
Yeah.
So it isn't rocket science, but it's understanding the trades and understanding video at the same time, because you can't just go around like this. You can't just hold your phone and go record just random videos on site. You need to be able to.
You can, but you need an editor. Who knows how to put that together?
That's the thing. Like if you need to be able to understand angles. Like there's a lot to videography. I won't get into that too much, but if you tie that in with also understanding the details of the trades or that specific trade, you can really capture the proper moments to tell the right story, right?
Which adds to engagement.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what people want to see. People don't want to see just ego-driven cool shots. No. They'll watch the first couple and then they'll get sick of it.
Correct, yeah.
They need to see a beginning, middle, and end to the story.
And they need to be, you need a hook.
Yeah.
Here's some more value.
Yeah.
You need a 3-second hook.
What's the objective here?
Correct, yeah.
How does it get back tied into your brand?
Yep.
How does it potentially drop a seed for a lead? Mm-hmm. Like there's a thought process behind everything.
100%. Yeah, it's not just putting out.
Like you can be those kids that just throw a bunch of shit out there. And I mean, like everybody follows Casey Nesbitt, whatever. You remember Casey Nesbitt out of New York?
No.
Nesbitt or Nesbitt, whatever. He's a huge influencer, right?
It sounds so familiar. Yeah.
Huh? Nice, whatever. Yeah, Casey, right? So he's got the painted on sunglasses and all this other shit. Okay. You remember his Nike campaign?
No.
So the way he blew up, he was able to secure funds from Nike.
Okay.
So they gave him some money to do a video about Nike, just running. Yeah. Right? So he says to his friend, there's enough money here for us to travel around the world if we wanted to. So they literally were hopping plane to plane to plane, going to different countries, and they just did a circle around the whole world, right? And then they documented the whole procedure. So it started off as a wide shot and him just going from left to right.
Yeah.
Right? And he was just running the whole time. And then it became viral. This is way back in the early fucking days. This is like 10 plus years ago, right? Yeah. And so all of a sudden he comes back and this is what you never see the shoes in close up. You never see a Nike logo in close up. It's not about that. Yeah. It's about him going, this is just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving. Yeah. Brings it back and Nike fucking loves it. Yeah. And then they post it and it becomes that was the start of his career.
A small detail that has a big impact.
Yeah.
And so Nike, like those companies like Nike, Coca-Cola, all them, I study them a lot. Like when it comes to branding, because that's what they've done.
That's what they've always focused on.
They do an extremely good job, and that's what I'd like to see transferred over.
See, that's my point is that is applicable to construction.
100%.
But nobody is. That's why it's refreshing when I scroll, right? So when I scroll, I'm looking for something that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely a lot of talented tradespeople out there that have hidden marketing capabilities. Like they know how to shoot a certain thing a certain way. And I joke about how anybody can go on Amazon now and buy the latest and greatest camera, drone, all these little tools and details and shit like that. You can shift and tilt, learn lenses and all this shit. You can, and then manipulate and try it. I mean, or you can hire somebody that's going to do it for you. But if you could at least be on site and capture that footage and have it, and then you have the right editor. My early days, like 15 plus years ago, when I was doing YouTube videos and I was just getting started my own brand back then, we would just shoot a bunch of shit of chronologically what the construction process was all about. But I was fortunate enough to have an editor who in the beginning didn't know shit about construction, but he knew a lot about storytelling. And then he would see that day's footage and he'd be like, okay, well, this is a story. And he would create 5-10 minute long videos and he would create a story out of it. And I was always blown away on how he was able to go through all the footage and then decide that's the beginning, that's the middle, and that's the end. And then he actually told a story. By the end of it, he totally knew a lot about construction because that was being spouted out from me. And then he already knew the story part. The story part was more valuable than the construction part.
Yeah, I think that you hit it. 100%. Because if you're a good storyteller, then yes, if you don't know the industry, you can definitely portray that, right? But I always found it, it's funny you say that, because I always found it challenging when I do get a client that just wants to send me their own content versus me go out and shoot and just wants me to create videos. Yeah, just because, this is my process. So I had a shoot before I came here. Last night, actually even the night before I started this, I was already writing in my journal what shots I need, what story I want to tell, what can be unique from these guys. I search them up, I talk to them, then I go on site and I spend a half hour going through everything, making sure I can get the proper shots I need, and then I start shooting. So there is a lot of work that goes into it, and I need those proper shots to be able to really tell the story that I want to tell and that the client wants me to tell. So I always found it very difficult, not very difficult, I just found it difficult to deal with other people's content versus my own content, like creation.
I agree.
Because you really need to have a creative eye, right? Like editing is a big portion of it, but taking the video is also part of the whole formula.
Well, that's where I go back to. You need to hire somebody that we can educate them on the construction process. But if anything, I would hire somebody to come on board and they would have to hang out on the job site to get a sense of what this job site's all about, to get a sense of what that tradesperson's all about, what that trade is all about, what this business is all about. And in all fairness, if you wanted to, spend fucking 40 days and listen to this show and you'll get a sense of every single trade, right? But nobody's got 40 days to do that. But I think that if you're someone who's not in construction, but you know the technical side of shooting content or creating marketing content, then you need to immerse yourself into the construction side of things.
And as they should. At the end of the day, if you got a client in an industry you don't know anything about, you better be doing your homework.
But the majority of marketing people are just crossing the street. And then I saw it a lot at the heavy machinery show, which I was so fucking annoyed by it because they were just taking pretty girls and putting them in situations, and then they were basically shooting content. And I was like, that's got no fucking traction whatsoever. You'll get your hits, you'll get your comments, and they'll be showing their boobs and all this other crap. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with your brand and what to achieve out of it, right? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and me either. And I do see that a lot, and that's what I want to. That's another reason why I wanted to get into this specific niche, because I see people doing it wrong and I want to do it right, because I have the experience, right? I have years of experience and I can speak that language, and people that aren't speaking the language are just, in my opinion, ruining marketing for the industry, right? And maybe that's why a lot of contractors kind of shy away from it. And
because they've been burned, right?
That's another, I get that a lot. The one you mentioned this just a couple minutes ago too, like the whole, my business has been great, I'll just do the whole word of mouth thing. That's a very common rebuttal that I get, and I always say the same thing. It's like, okay, great. I'm not saying word of mouth doesn't work, but why don't we get you more word of mouth? Because social media gets you word of mouth too. Imagine you get business from social media that you do a good job on, that can also transfer from word of mouth. So now let's say your return on ad spend was 4-to-1. Now you can turn that into 10-to-1 because you got a word of mouth from that one person, right? So
here's a question for you, Eddie. Would you, because I know that the go-to once you kind of convince a tradesperson to dive into these waters is to do the paid boost.
Can we back up? I hate the word convince because it means that I want that person. I'd rather educate. I want to educate.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Okay, totally agree with you. No, I'll change that. It's fine. I'm looking at it like, would you kind of speak to the client on two options here? One, we develop your brand organically and just focus on good quality content that is a reflection of who you are as a character, as a personality, as a business, and as a brand? Or do we just focus on paid ads and just go that route where we're just trying to get more of an audience out there? Which, in your opinion, is a more effective way to get what they want to achieve?
It depends on a few variables. The biggest variable will be smaller business or small or big business, right? If you're a small contractor starting out, this goes back to what I said before. We need to produce you an ROI, because you're not going to be happy putting out social media content, quality content. And yes, maybe you can get a instant ROI from that, depending on, again, tons of variables, the industry you're in. Did you already have a social media account that we could work off of? And so on and so on. But typically I would say if to start with paid ads to produce that ROI, and then transfer over to add on, not transfer over because you want to keep both running, add on the branding, which is the social media and whatnot. If you're a big business that can handle both, that cost of both, I would say dive into both, because
I agree.
If you're not producing quality content for the long term right now, you need to. But I also am understanding when I deal with certain contractors that they might not have the funds to do both. So I always say, okay, let's focus on getting you the funds by producing you an ROI.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Some marketers might say otherwise, because they might say, no, branding is more important. We need to start this now because it is a long-term game, right? But I'm over here thinking man, you got to understand contractors. They want to see an ROI. We got to create that ROI right away, and you do that through paid ads. And I would do that specifically through Google ads. Facebook ads, Instagram ads are great, but they are sometimes a bit of a longer
So
game.
Google's your best bet right now, but
for most contractors, yes.
As long as you understand the back end part
Correct.
of it.
If you're just running ads to a whole page, it can work, but you have to really have that homepage figured, dialed in, right? I always recommend a landing page where you're very direct with your message. It would be awesome to even get a video, like I mentioned, of the owner specifically talking, if possible. If it's a larger outfit, right? Maybe I don't know, someone down from that, right? Like a manager or whatnot. But definitely Google ads, because Facebook ads and Instagram ads are a bit of a long-term game, just because you have to spend a little bit more time educating on those platforms. So educating why they should hire you. And then LinkedIn ads are pretty good too. Yeah. But the reason why a lot of people shy away from LinkedIn ads as an initial start is because you have to pay to get that type of lead, because we're dealing with high ticket item, and your return on ad spend is going to be a little bit higher. It won't be a 4-to-1 ratio. It'll be a little higher. I don't know the exact average, but
it's funny how and you could probably shine some light on this, but by now I would have expected, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, TikTok exploded, right? Yeah. Was it about 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6 years ago, TikTok exploded, right? Yeah. And now I can only assume that TikTok is probably surpassing or giving IG a run for its money.
For sure, yeah.
Regarding I'd engagement,
say it's already surpassed it 100%.
Okay, that's what I figured, right? Yeah. But I figured by now there would have been a new player on the field, right?
Well, that's what I think that's kind of where Threads came along, trying to imitate what Twitter is, not specifically the video thing, but Facebook trying to kind of.
Is it working?
I haven't
for
really
construction.
I don't
see it working.
So even TikTok, it could work, but it depends. So
it's kind of funny. Off mic, was it off mic? Sorry, off mic, or was I can't remember. Whatever. Human Side of Construction, Angelo, which is great. Yeah. So he's exploding on IG, which is amazing. I love his fucking what you call memes, right? Yeah. But fuck all on TikTok. Yeah. Same memes, same videos, same everything.
Different. It has to be different.
Right.
Yeah.
So I figure by now there would have been a new player on the field, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen it. And I don't know if that has something to do with the demon Zuckerberg, where he controls so much, and how they're trying to force TikTok out now. It has nothing to do with China. It has everything to do with something else that's going on in the world, right? And so it's like I figured that there would have been a new social platform coming on board that would have been catering to us somehow, or something's going on. But I don't know why I haven't seen this yet.
I personally think it has a lot to do with Facebook going a little bit further into developing Instagram and really trying to compete with TikTok, right?
So they're trying to stay on top.
Correct. Yeah.
And everybody's gone back now to Facebook.
So
remember there was like a
yes
lull?
and no, it's slowly trickling back up.
Okay.
But that's another thing. I definitely, if you're a contractor, I would put a big emphasis on Facebook. Not
100%.
enough. It's a space that's not as saturated anymore, and if you go into that right now and like literally do like check off every little thing that you absolutely need to do to excel on Facebook, if you do that right now, you can make a lot of money for sure.
I want to educate the listeners as well too, because I always, from my days in advertising, I was always aware of advertising budgets, right? And they were based on what your gross profits were, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you looked at that, and then there was always an increment, usually around 5% is what you would be spending for any kind of marketing expenditures. So the problem I have with the construction industry is that they're fucking dinosaurs, right? Because the first thing the economy does, and it starts to turn, the first thing they fucking do is pull back all marketing expenditures.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with spending marketing. And it's not just the tradespeople in their own businesses that are trying to get work. It's the suppliers, the stupid idiots out there that are offering products for the construction industry. They do the exact same thing. And that's the worst thing that you can do when the economy's fucking turning. You should actually be doubling down and spending more to continue your brand awareness, right? But they're not doing that. And it's so frustrating. So I'm trying to get an idea of what, if you've got a contractor and they've got a business, and let's say they've got a gross number of $1 million per year, how much of that should they be allocating towards their marketing and brand awareness out there for that year?
Correct. Yeah. I try not to give financial advice just because I'm not a financial advisor, right?
No, but a marketing budget where you can go to them and go, listen, this is what I know exactly what I should be spending, right? And I also have spoken to other builders that they're far greater than $1 million. They're probably bringing in 11, 12 million per year, and they have no problem spending six figures on marketing alone. Just to get the messaging out there.
Like I would say typically 5 to 15% would be ideal. 15% it would be on the more aggressive side, obviously. Maybe you have that type of budget you were just talking about, like where you can take that bit of not a hit, but can spend that type of money, right? But going back to what you said about how a lot of people retract on downtime, I think that's a big no-no. I think that's what people need to do is go get more detailed, right? Like, is your marketing guy producing results? And if not, hire a new guy, right? What ads are working? Here's a better one. What platforms are working for you right now? Is TikTok producing 10 grand of income or 10 grand of return? Or is Facebook producing 20? Okay, maybe you got to get rid of TikTok for now and go towards Facebook, for instance, right? Then you look into like ads, right? You're constantly testing ads. Like what we do is I should speak on our behalf. We are constantly testing ads, getting rid of the ones that don't produce any results and putting in more money into the ones that do, right? Because again, why would you want to burn your marketing dollars? So I don't think people should retract. I think people just get more detailed with what they're doing, right?
100%.
And spending it wisely. Before downtime, you were probably just saying, let's try this, let's try that, let's do this, let's test this platform, right? Which makes sense because then because you have more marketing dollars, you can test all these different things. Now you can't. So instead of taking it all away, just test or just go in on what is working. So don't test as much, but go in on what's working is essentially what I think needs to happen.
It's funny how the contractors, they do that with the construction side of the business.
But not marketing,
not the marketing side.
Yeah.
And who's really evil at it are interior designers because they know exactly what to offer clients for their maximum return on profitability.
Yeah.
So they know if they present a certain design that they've already done before. They know that if the client signs off on this, here's our X amount of profit that we're going to achieve from this, right? But contractors do it on the construction side, but they don't do it on the marketing side. Construction, they'll come in, they know exactly what all the subtrades cost, they know exactly what products to use, what details to build, all this other shit, and they know where the profit are. But then when it comes to the marketing, they don't fucking do it. They don't spend the time and effort. And when the economy starts to turn, that's when they should actually try to find an 8th day in the week to sit down and analyze and figure out, where did we get traction? Like in the last 6 months, this shit was not a light switch that just happened overnight. This is a slow trickle that happened, right? Where did we get traction? Did we get a lot of people reaching out to us from IG? Did we get people DMing us from there? Or did we get it from Facebook? Or did we get it from X? Or did we get it from like figure out exactly, and then it doesn't matter if it's 1 or if it's 10 or whatever, figure out exactly where your engagement with your potential leads that secured a job a year ago came from. Sit down and analyze that, and now double down on that. Go back and now start planning the next 6 months and going, listen, we're going to do paid ads here on IG because that's where we got the most traction out of it. And then we're going to do some really interesting organic content that we're going to create with Eddie, and we're going to figure out exactly how to get this. This should work, but then we're going to pay attention that first month. And we're going, if we don't see that engagement, we're going to start questioning, why didn't we get it?
Correct.
Yeah, we have to figure it out.
And we're pretty quick on that too, because at the end of the day, we the last thing I want to do is burn anyone's marketing dollars, right? So yes, we do need some time for data to trickle in, but we're also quick on the trigger to say this ad isn't working, right? But keep in mind, there are a lot of people that X ads before they get the data they need, and they'll never know if that ad was going to be successful or not. And all you really need is one winning ad. That's it. One winning ad, because you won't exhaust that for months, in some cases years, depending on the ad, right? Like you can go on and on and on with that ad, and it can continue producing results, and you keep putting in more money to reach more people. And that's how simple it is.
So going back to the math, if you're $1 million company, let's say you allocate $50,000, right? So let's just go the $50,000 route, which is the 5%. And that's what you're going to spend for marketing. So now you've got 50 grand. You got to figure out what your marketing plan is. Now the objective is that, what if you secure 5 $50,000 rentals? Was it not worth spending that $50,000 to get those rentals?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense in my opinion. The numbers are they just start to grow after that. You start getting into a company who's a $10 million business, and they're spending $500,000 on marketing, and they secure another $2 or $3 million job. Is that not worth spending? It's a no-brainer at that point, right? The last thing, as we're getting close to the end, I want to talk about how valuable are partnerships. Like on social media, like partnering with people to try to work together. Like I see people not doing more when they could be doing more. And when I say partnership, is that why can't you be a plumber who's offering services and partnering up with doing content with an electrician or an HVAC person or something like that, and try to do collective marketing on 3 or 4 different pages now. So now you know who your following is, you know who your following is, and let's try to get together. Let's pull it together. Will that work? So that's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought, because I kind of had something similar that we've talked to with Tyler and I actually, and maybe so I don't know so much about like contractor versus contractor, right? I don't know how that would play out, but definitely contractor versus like builder. That'd be cool. So for instance, like let's say
that's a good one.
Let's say you complete a masonry project for ABC builder. You go out, take wicked videos and photos, invite them as a collaboration on Instagram, for instance. That can have a trickle effect on both ends, right? Now I'm seeing your audience trickle into me, and vice versa, right? That part, for let's say TMC Masonry, that builder probably has other builders on there looking at the work, and then on the other side, there could be other homeowners on TMC's side or other builders that want to partner up with that builder, for instance, or developers, right? So I think on that, like if you organize it that way, for sure. I don't know. I mean, I can still see it being very beneficial if you had a tile guy work with a plumber, for instance, right? Or a concrete guy work with the framer, right? Because at the end of the day, you need concrete in a house to frame, right? So if you,
I'm just trying to capitalize on people's, reach.
So
Right.
yeah, and that is a really cool way to capitalize on. Like I look at it this way, like a TCL podcast is great because you're utilizing your audience for other contractors to reach other people, right?
Yeah.
Even myself being on here, I can reach other people based off our collaboration right now, right?
Yeah.
So you can still do the same thing with contractor versus contractor. I think it just needs to be done properly and not arrogantly, right? Like
Yeah.
if you position it properly, and it could be as simple as just, you know, an invitation to collaborate on Instagram, and you guys maybe did a cool video together where you're showcasing both brands, then that could definitely be a cool way to
I haven't seen anybody do it.
Yeah.
I don't, a lot of the big builders, their ego gets in the way. So then they don't really want to collaborate with the trades.
Yeah.
And I think that's a missed opportunity. I think that it could actually work.
Yeah, like we have collaborated actually a lot with builders that we've worked with. Typically, just the ones we've built really good relationships with. But and I'm talking about TMC Masonry specifically, and it's done really well. Like we've seen a lot of trickle in with that. Has it transferred into business? We didn't really measure the UTM on that, so.
But it's probably translated into employees.
Yeah.
People reaching out.
For sure, yeah.
Right? And that's okay, so there's two worlds here that's going on, right? You're getting a whole generation that's looking for work. Mm-hmm. Right? Unfortunately, we have a lot of kids that are coming out of school that are looking for work.
Yep.
And so they are paying attention to social media, and they're trying to figure out where to reach out to and who to speak to and all this other shit.
And typically it's the guys that are showing cool shit on social media, right?
Yeah.
So we, like, up until a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago, for TMC, we only transferred over to try to focus more, like put more focus on business. Not that we weren't. But we focused more on business only about 2 months ago. Prior to that, Tyler's goal was to hire more employees, right? Because he was growing exponentially and he needed the work, right? So if you go back, you'll see a lot of the content was based around the company culture. You know, funny memes were a little bit more, it happened more often, specifically because that's how you engage with that audience, right? Yeah. And if you look at Team C as a company, and we mentioned this on the podcast last time, they're a very young company. Mm-hmm. Like they don't have many, experience. I shouldn't say experience, but old school guys. Exactly, right? So, and all that came from, not all of it, but a big portion of that came from social media, right? So it comes down, I guess, just to kind of put two and two together, it comes down to what your specific goal is. But either whatever the goal is, social media can definitely help with that, right?
Well, I think
whether
definitely
it's business or workforce.
Yeah,
right?
If you plan social media now for the rest of this year, you're going to get leads, man.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you whether or not you turn those leads into sales.
Correct.
And that's also going to plant for 2025,
yep.
Which I've been telling people still that this downturn in the economy is not going to change until 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. It has a lot to do with our own government here.
Yep.
It has a lot to do with a lot of uncertainty right now. And there's no rush to lower the bank rates right now because the bank rates were and are at very low rates to begin with. So that's the problem, is that you have to accept what's going on right now. And certain people in power are making too much money on the backs of people struggling right now. So this ain't changing anytime soon. So what that means is that you have to change as a business owner. If you want to stay in the game, you need to figure out how am I going to reposition my brand now to still generate leads, because people still need work. They still need renovations to be done, and they want to do it with somebody that they can connect with. Correct. And your client is on social media. They are, whether you like it or not, they're paying attention. And you should be looking at which one that they're paying attention to.
And I think it comes down to this, just to maybe end it with this, right? You know, you try to look professional to your client, whether that's wearing a nice shirt when you go meet with them or doing quality work. Why isn't that being transferred online?
Yeah.
You should have the best presence you can possibly have online, whether that's a website or social media, anything, right? Because at one point that's going to determine whether someone goes with you or not. Or someone goes with you or the competitor. Yeah. So to really light a fire under contractors' ass, I think it will come down to you need, like, you're either going to be left behind or you're going to opt in and could make a lot of money through online efforts, specifically digital marketing, because I won't touch anything traditional. I can design a business card, but I choose not to.
I don't, like, I'm still surprised that I walk into Indigo and there's a magazine rack out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll occasionally flip through it just for the photography purposes of it,
Yeah.
but I could look at different photographers that I respect and just look at their portfolio.
Look at
right?
magazine companies now. They have digital presence. I think eventually magazines will just solely be digital.
They have to be. That's
Yeah.
just, it's inevitable that's going to happen that way, just because everybody's on devices these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one last thing that I would share is that I would love to see a shitload more of humor in the posts.
Yeah.
And I think what's going on is that you get specifically construction people, they get a little nervous about sharing their perspective of a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to figure out, am I going to be offending somebody?
Yeah.
And I think we're at the point now where I think the world is changing now. Yeah. And you should be saying, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
This is who I am as a personality. This is who I am as a character. So if you want to meet me and you want me and my crew to build something for you, this is a reflection of my humor. Yeah. This is what I think is funny on site. This is what I think is humorous. I respect anybody who's doing something funny on a job site. Yeah. That is a reflection of the construction industry, because I know it's true. I know it's part of the industry. It's part of that trade. It's part of that environment. So I'm not offended by it. And so if you are afraid of clients being offended by something, then you should really be telling yourself, that's not the client I want to work for.
And so I do agree with that. And kind of just to add to that too, is at the end of the day, because we also have to understand that, like, some people, some contractors might not have that humor, right? I look at it this way.
But the crew has it.
Correct.
Somebody in that circle has it.
And that's how you showcase your company
Yes.
culture, not just to bring on employees, but, you know, maybe a client wants to see what you're all about, right? So if you can showcase your personality, and if that is humor, I 100% think you should go all in on that. Like, I'll bring it to Tyler, because he's a very entertaining guy, and we try to do our best by capturing those entertaining moments with him, and they do really well because he's a funny guy. And, like, I guess when it comes to humor on the construction site, like you said, people don't do it enough. So when you see a guy like Tyler execute that properly, it just does extremely well.
Just understand your strengths.
Yeah.
Understand your strengths, milk them, use them. In good taste, and that's it. And don't be apologetic about it either, right? Because this is a reflection of who you are.
And that's what I mean by agreeing with you. Like, I think we do live in a messed up world, but I'm not going to bow down to that. I don't think anyone should bow down to it. And especially in the construction industry, I think more than anyone, we stand up for a lot of that. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but we shouldn't bow down to feeling like we're going to offend someone, right? As long as you're not point blank saying F you, F that, right? You know, if you're going to say, get a funny message across, by all means, do it. Yeah.
It was kind of disappointing because I know that there's a meme going on around right now about a woman who's talking about cock, and she's talking about white cock and black cock, right? And that all came from Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
Which was a skit out of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And it was a very funny skit. And it's a shame that, you know, like, tradespeople, painters, or even, I mean, I've been trying to get Vanguard on the show, but Vanguard's not a reflection of that way, right? Vanguard caulking. Yeah. They're probably one of the solid, if not the best caulking guys in the entire GTA area. And the thing is, that would have been perfect for them, but they don't use social media, right? And I get it. They don't want to be the performers. There's certain trades that are like that, and I respect that. Yeah. And I don't want anybody to perform. Never.
Yeah.
Don't try to be a performer. Yeah. That's the fucking idiots on HGTV. Yeah. Let them. They're really good at it. They can continue doing that. But if you're a tradesperson, just maximize who you are as a personality. That's as simple as that. But somebody in the paint industry or somebody in the fucking caulking part of the industry should have beat Saturday Night Live to it. They should, and I think that they were probably too nervous about doing that.
Whether it was going to offend someone or not.
I remember there was like a Jim Carrey show back in the day, Real Reynolds. This is 20 plus years ago. There was an episode where he was talking to his plumber. I can't remember if it was a plumber or tile guy, and they were talking about how she was looking for 6 inches. right? So they were talking about the client, and then they were legitimately talking about something that was requiring a 6-inch item or an 8-inch item or something like that, right? And then it just clued in on them when they were talking that it was basically a double entendre, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden they just started joking and laughing about it, and everybody in the room knew exactly what they were fucking talking about. Yeah. And I'm like, that's who they are. Yeah. And that would have been an amazing social media post just talking about that. Yeah. And it's like, you are legitimately talking about a pipe that's 6 inches, but it was being portrayed something else, right?
And
but that's construction humor.
Yeah.
We do it all the time, whether it's caulking or whether it's any kinds of, there's so many different construction terms that are so connected to being misunderstood in real world scenarios, right? And I think more and more tradespeople should be taking advantage of that shit.
I think we use, we do that a lot in the trades. And I do agree with that, actually. We do our fair share at teams, like with Team C, doing that, but I don't see that enough. And even like on my end, dealing with clients, like there's a bit of scarcity on my end if they're going to be okay with it, right? I even hate that I have to ask sometimes if it's okay to do certain things like that. But at the end of it all, I got to please a client too. But I, like you said, I would like to see more humor in the trades when it comes to social media.
But you got to understand who your audience is. Never forget, the same way that I was talking earlier about how you want to hire a social media marketing person that understands the construction industry. Don't get sold on the idea that they know marketing when they're talking about Coke or some shit like that. It's the same way that you got to understand, So there was a show that I did, and it was a really good show. And it was with an old school tile guy and his son, Frank, and he was very open about his opinions about life in general. I mean, you're talking about a guy's in his 60s and he's been in construction for 40 years, right? So he just unfiltered and all this other shit. And then I was having a conversation with a brand, with a potential sponsor. And they're like, listen, I didn't like that show. I didn't like him. I didn't like a lot of the shit that he said, right? And I said, you may not have liked what he said, or you may not have liked who he was, but I guarantee you that it connected with the audience. And I'm always creating shows that connect with the audience. Smart. I'm not creating shows that are fucking politically correct. I don't give a fuck about the woke agenda. I don't give a shit about any of that crap. And sure enough, that's the second most highest fucking show.
Of course.
And I told that to the brand. I go, watch this fucking show, Climb.
Yeah.
And I go, it Climb because in between his banter, of using certain kind of politically incorrect words, he was still sharing really extremely valuable construction knowledge for a next generation to really absorb if they wanted to. And that's why that show did well. Yeah. He basically solidified that he's an old school guy. He knows the industry. Yeah. He knows how to deal with clients. He knows the trade. And then he's talking in his language. And he's connecting with the audience. And that's how I saw that show skyrocket right to number 2.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to happen. I knew it for various reasons. So then I explained to the brand, and then they still, they've stayed off site. And I'm like, that's fine. You guys can do that. But then you're watching your competition get in place of you guys.
Yep.
So be it. I don't give a shit at that point. I'm not I don't regret doing that show. I don't regret, at some point during that show, you actually said, listen, Manny, can I say whatever the fuck? I go, dude, this is construction life. You can say whatever the fuck you want. I don't care, right? So you go, good, because that's how I talk. This is who I am. And I'm like, great, it's wonderful. And I knew, as soon as we recorded that show at the very beginning, I knew it was going to jump. Yeah. So you need to understand who you're speaking to. We're still tradespeople, and tradespeople will connect with other tradespeople if you're passionate about what you guys do. Yep. Simple as that.
Yeah. That you hit it on. The authenticity goes a long way, right? And whether that's on site or online, it transfers both ways, right?
So your digital imagery has to be a reflection of who you are on site.
Exactly, yeah. And especially I'd put a big emphasis on that, because if you are even just a tad bit fake online, because
see it.
Oh my God, yeah,
You'll see it, man.
Yeah, people pick up on that like that, especially in the trades.
Yeah,
because I feel like we just have an eye for that shit, right? Like we will look and determine if you're fake or not very, very easily.
We see that shit all the time with tool influencers, because they have to perform, because they have to legitimately say positive things about a certain product, when the reality is that that's not the truth. And it's just as simple as that. So that's why I'm saying, always ask yourself, is this a reflection of who I am? Like, am I a performer here or is this who I am?
Yeah.
One or the other. You have to decide. You can't be both, right? Simple as that. So, and then you got to hire the team that's going to not manipulate that, right? But just use it to your benefit.
Correct. Yeah.
Simple as that,
Tell
right?
the story properly. Yeah.
So I think in today's market, everybody should be understanding. I agree with you. If they want to tackle some of it because they don't have the marketing dollars to do all of it, but at least, hire you to do certain components and then eventually hire you to take care of all of it because they start seeing some revenue coming in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Simple as that. But the thing is, we're in an economical time right now that you're not going to get a sale tomorrow. I mean, you might get lucky and have that happen, but it ain't going to be the case.
Yeah,
you have to plant them.
I definitely don't want to say tomorrow. That's a very big luck. Like you better, you got a lot of luck. Go play the lottery if that's the case.
No,
but,
it's not gonna happen.
It can happen within a month if everything is set up properly. And I have to emphasize that it is like there's a lot of variables. So it's very determined by how you positioned yourself prior to us talking, for instance, right? So if it was 50% okay, then you could probably get your produce an ROI within your first 30 days, right? But I typically say that though is let's start with something that can produce an ROI right away if you can't afford everything all at once, and then work your way up from that, right? Like I always say, this is another reason again why I don't have contracts, because I want to build the relationship, right? If I tie you into a contract and we only have ABC services on that contract, I can't grow with you. I'd rather say, let's do this month to month, let me produce your results, and let's do the rest once you have the money, right? Let me make you some money and then let's add more, and then we focus on your long-term game. Then you'll start to see money long-term and build your brand. And as long as you're a contractor that wants to build something, like scale your business up, then I'm the right fit, right? If you're just someone that wants to build something and leave it in the next year or so, probably not a good fit. Yeah.
Then there's no reason for you to go down this path.
Yeah.
Then you just continue doing what you're doing, leave it at that.
Exactly.
But if you're hanging around, like I always had this argument years ago. Every contractor who has a business right now has the potential to build a business to the point where someone else will want to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The reason that you don't get to that position where someone wants to buy it is because you have not done the work to position yourself that way.
Correct.
I'm telling you right now, there's lots of plumbers, electricians, masons, all kinds of builders, all kinds of people that you can get to a certain point with this business that someone else will come along and go, I want to buy your fucking business. I want to buy your brand that you built. Yeah. And you built it because you were smart about how you marketed.
Yep.
And if you don't market it correctly, then nobody's going to be interested in buying it.
Exactly.
And it folds up when you don't have any sons or daughters or whatever. You don't have any kids and you haven't passed it on to them, or you haven't hired somebody that wants to buy it off of you. It's just going to fold up when you end, right? Yeah. And that's the old school way of doing things in construction, where they worked hard, they provided, and then nobody wanted to take it over, and then they folded up shop, and that was done. Today's day, with everybody that I've seen on social media and construction in general, every single one of you have the potential to build a brand strong enough that someone else would want to buy it.
That should definitely be the goal.
That's the ultimate end goal. That's that's an important goal to have, that someone's going to come along and want to buy it, but you have to do the work to get to that point.
Oh, there's a lot to do before you get to that point, 100%. And in my opinion, a lot of it ties into marketing, digital marketing, right? And your branding, right? Let's put your brand in front of as many people as we can, day in and day out. That's what it comes down to.
You just got to look at other, I guess, platforms that have become big enough that other corporations came in. Mm-hmm. They all started as small platforms that were connected to the construction industry somehow. The unfortunate thing is that you got corporations that came in and just killed it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like the Angie List and the Homestars and all this other crap, right? They just killed it, but they've fed it to the consumer, and this is what they want. And that's not what we're talking about. In my opinion, there's a line drawn in the sand between what real construction is all about and what corporate construction is all about.
Correct.
Right? If you guys want to dive into the corporate construction world of things, then go ahead and do that. That's not my wheelhouse. I don't care about it. If you want to focus on the construction side of things, that's where I'll have an opinion, right?
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
All right, man.
All right.
That was a great conversation. Anything else we want to talk about? Or?
No, that was it. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to share value. And I mean, I'm always open, right? So if people
They want to have a conversation with you, just reach out.
Yeah.
Start
like
the ball rolling.
Even like at the end of the day, I don't expect everyone to want to hire me. That's not in the construction industry. That's not my goal at all. My goal is to educate, right? Like, yeah, money makes, the world go round, and it is important to me, but that's not the only thing that's important to me, right? So if people do have questions, literally reach out and I will reach back. If not within the first couple minutes, definitely within that day.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Eddie, what is it? Eddie
Brenes.
Yeah. Brenes, that's it. Yeah.
Costa Rican baby.
Toolbox Marketing, ToolboxMarketing.ca. You can reach him at info@ToolboxMarketing.ca, and also on IG under Toolbox Marketing Agency. His phone number is 226-218-2135. I think that's it. You've done the 12 questions.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, you did it, with Tyler when you guys were here.
I don't even remember what I answered.
We don't have to do it again. It's all good. No, thanks so much, Eddie. I appreciate it, man. I always like talking marketing, and ever since I got into construction, I've always been conscious of marketing and construction, because you got to remember 15 years ago when I got in, marketing and construction was fucking a sales guy in a polo shirt giving you this speech on what the products can do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys are fucking boring as hell, man. Like, this is like, there's so much potential here.
Yeah.
And that's where I started injecting humor and started doing all kinds of different fucking things, right? I used to do videos where I didn't give a shit, and I don't do it anymore. I should continue to start doing. I used to do videos where I was talking to the camera going, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach me at 1-800-FUCK-YOU.
Yeah.
And then that was it. That was the video. I didn't care, because it was a reflection of who I was.
Yeah.
I always want to stay true to who I was. Right. And I think that every tradesperson out there is not a carbon copy of another tradesperson.
Yeah.
So if you focus on who you are and your personality and your character and your business, you're going to be unique to the market.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then someone's going to want to, like, you may ruffle some feathers and you might piss off, but they may not be your clients, man.
That's what I was going to say. I always look at it like that. If you're going to have haters, quote unquote, on this, whatever, on social, those aren't your ideal client anyway. So why would you care about what they say, right? The people that will care are the ones that will engage back and aren't going to be haters, right? So I wouldn't focus on that. If you're someone that's thinking like, oh, should I post this because of this, or because of this is going to offend someone, who cares? They're probably not your ideal client or your ideal audience.
Delete the comment, block them, move on.
I see.
Don't
I don't
engage.
Even like, so we get some haters on TMC, and I don't even delete them, because if you engage back, as long as it's like not as long as no, well, yes and no. So it's like a double-edged sword here. So if as long as it's not a big nasty comment where you're like, okay, I got to delete this. Let's say it's mediocre and you can engage back. I recommend engaging back and starting conversation.
Because of the back end of it.
Because your true followers will opt in on that, have your back, and now that works on that end, so people can see that you're credible. And then on the other end, the algorithm picks it up and sees that more people are commenting. So a lot of the time, I don't delete them. I just comment back, and a lot of the time, it's people that just are uneducated, right? And you educate them, and then boom, everyone else.
I can't tell you the last time I got a hater comment. I probably don't even pay attention. I mean, I did that show with Bob Baker out of Calgary there, and he said a lot of interesting things that I agreed with on about tool influencers, and he's had a huge battle. He's had a bunch of haters attack him, and he even gave me a heads up that I might get attacked. And I was like, Bob, I actually don't think I will get attacked, because I think everybody realizes that I don't give a fuck anymore. If you want to attack, then go ahead and attack, but I'm not going to engage with you. I understand the back end stuff. Most part, if I see somebody say something negative, I don't think it's gotten to the point of a hater. You'll see the followers jump on way before me, and I don't even jump on. I just leave it be, and I'm like, go ahead. As long as everybody's being tasteful and not disrespected, you know what I mean, and getting really, really fucking crass about shit, then I'll leave it on there. But if it's just a direct try to attack you to get fucking a fight going on, it ain't gonna come from me, because I don't give a fuck anymore. It's as simple as that. I've learned, like, it doesn't benefit me at that point. I get it about the traction and all this other shit, because it also works on TikTok really well. The engagement side of things, you'll see it start to jump, because if you start engaging, and you get a lot of people saying bullshit on TikTok, and I'm like, go ahead and say it. I don't care, right?
That's you. In my opinion, you kind of, whether it's good or bad, you just want it. You want that engagement, because it will do good. The algorithm picks it up.
But it's part of it, right? So it's also understand that it's part of the game, but go back to stay focused on what's your objective.
You take it or not take it. You just let it be, and you just go back into what you were doing.
Am I trying to get it? Like, I guarantee you, though, you're going to probably get a client going, I like what you had to say about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't disagree with you on that. And then when you're already talking to that client about a potential job, in the back of your head, you're already thinking, I got this job.
Yeah.
Because they liked what was going on in my social.
Yeah.
So it was a reflection of me, and I was just defending myself. If I was in person and having an argument with somebody, just treat it that way. Treat it as if it still has to keep on going back to you.
Yeah.
Who you are.
Exactly.
That's what's going to work the best.
Yeah. For branding. Yeah, exactly. And whether you're small or even a big outfit that, brings in millions and millions of dollars, you still, and like, cause you see this a lot with bigger outfits, they might not portray the CEO, right? Like they might not even talk about the CEO, but you can still, every big company, big outfit has values and has principles. Yeah. Instill that into the social media and the branding, because that comes from the CEO, right? Yeah. So whether you don't want to showcase yourself or you do, you should still have values of that company, which will be something that you give, right? You portray that into your social media, right?
It's probably funny that you're probably one of the first people to come and approach contractors and ask them all these questions that they've never answered yet.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like
value-wise.
Oh, yeah.
What are you really all about?
Yeah.
Like, don't give me the builder speech. Don't give me about integrity and quality work and all this. Don't give me that shit. I don't want to know about that shit. I want to know, what are you as an individual really all about?
Yeah.
Tell me what you're really all about.
Yeah.
And they probably don't even answer those questions just yet.
Yeah. Because
they get so sucked into the construction side of things and not understanding that the marketing side of things are just as valuable as the fucking construction side of things.
Correct. Yeah.
They don't really pay that. Like, if you don't do, I know that the old saying was there's a power in the pencil, which means getting all the estimates out there and getting the work and potentially getting leads. Yeah. But these days, people are submitting 10 folds of estimates and getting maybe one, if any, if they're getting any. When back in the day during the COVID spike, you're 1 in 3, 1 in 2, 1 in 1, you're getting these jobs, right? So now if you can't market yourself correctly, you're going to miss out.
Now more than ever, I think it's that important, right? Like another example, that Tyler constantly tells me is his social media presence does get brought up in meetings, when it comes to the bidding, right? Like they do mention that. So clearly if they're mentioning that, being a mason, they're watching, right? So for all contractors out there, like you just know that it is important to have an online presence. Even if you do it yourself for the time being, you should still have an online presence, right? And reach out to people like me or learn online just to have that presence. And when you have the funds, or when you're ready, you hire a marketer to go all in and really start to 10x your online game, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, we're done. That's it. All good. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Out of here.